the most wanted Asian people in history. Born in 1957 to a wealthy construction family in Saudi Arabia, Osama bin Laden grew up far from the battlefields that later defined his life. As a young man, he went to Afghanistan during the Soviet-Afghan War, where he used his money, religious zeal, and contacts to support foreign fighters. Out of these networks he helped build Al-Qaeda, which framed itself as leading a global jihad, and turned scattered militants into a loose transnational organization. Under his leadership, Al-Qaeda was linked to the 1998 U.S. Embassy bombings in East Africa, the 2000 attack on the USS Cole, and then the September 11, 2001 attacks in the United States. After 9/11 he became the face of international terrorism and the focus of a massive U.S.-led manhunt, appearing on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives and Most Wanted Terrorists lists. For almost a decade, intelligence agencies searched mountains, cities, and tribal areas for him, while recordings in his voice appeared from unknown locations. In 2011, U.S. Special Forces located him in a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, and killed him during a raid. His story is gripping because a single figure, operating largely from the shadows, managed to shape global politics and security for years. Dawood Ibrahim grew up in a crowded part of Mumbai, India, the son of a police constable, and moved from small street crime into the heart of the city's underworld. In the 1970s and 1980s he built what became known as D Company, a syndicate involved in smuggling, extortion, illegal gambling, and later drug trafficking. Over time his network reached beyond India into the Gulf, Southeast Asia, and reportedly into some legitimate businesses as well. Indian investigators and courts accuse him of helping plan and finance the 1993 Bombay bombings, a coordinated series of explosions that killed hundreds after a period of communal riots. Following those attacks, he disappeared from India, and has never returned. New Delhi has placed him at the top of its most wanted list, while Interpol has circulated notices, and the United States has designated him a global terrorist. Indian authorities say he lives in Pakistan under protection, a claim Pakistan denies, adding another layer of tension to an already difficult relationship. Despite the attention of several governments, he has avoided arrest for decades. His case is intriguing because it shows how a man who started as a local gangster became a symbol of transnational crime and political controversy. Kun Sa, born Chang Chi-fu in the 1930s in the Shan Hills of what is now Myanmar, grew up in a borderland shaped by war, opium, and competing armies. As a young man he formed his own militia, presenting it as a force defending Shan ethnic interests against the central government in Rangoon. By controlling mountain passes and roads in the Golden Triangle, his forces took hold of crucial opium routes that fed the global heroin trade. During the 1970s and 1980s he became one of the most powerful drug lords in the world, and U.S. officials accused him of supplying a large share of the heroin reaching American streets. American courts indicted him on drug charges, and a reward worth millions of dollars was offered for information leading to his capture. Still, in his territory he built a strange mix of rebel army, business empire, and personal fiefdom, and he often claimed he would stop trafficking if the Shan people gained autonomy. After years of fighting with the Myanmar army and rival groups, he suddenly surrendered in 1996, in what appeared to be a negotiated deal. Instead of extradition, he lived comfortably in Yangon as a businessman until his death in 2007. His life shows how in remote conflict zones, the line between warlord, political leader, and wanted criminal can be very thin. Shoko Asahara, born Chizuo Matsumoto in 1955 in Japan, spent his early years partially blind and attended a special school where he is said to have learned how to influence others. As an adult he turned toward spirituality, experimenting with different religious practices before founding his own movement, Aum Shinrikyo, in the 1980s. The group combined elements of Buddhism and Hinduism with apocalyptic visions, and Asahara's claimed to be a messianic figure who could lead followers through an approaching end of the world. AUM attracted highly educated young people, including scientists and engineers, and built compounds where members meditated, trained, and away from public view, developed chemical and biological weapons. In 1994 and 1995, AUM members carried out deadly sarin gas attacks in Japan, most shockingly on the Tokyo subway in March 1995, killing and injuring commuters during the morning rush hour. The country, known for order and safety, was stunned, and Asahara and his inner circle became the target of a massive police operation. After weeks of searching, officers found him hiding inside a compound and arrested him live on national television. Following a long trial, he was sentenced to death and executed in 2018. His story is deeply unsettling because it shows how a charismatic leader in a modern wealthy society built a closed world where ordinary people agreed to commit acts of mass violence. Ramzi Youssef, born in the late 1960s to Pakistani parents, moved between the Middle East and South Asia and studied electrical engineering before turning to militant activity. In 1992 he entered the United States using a fraudulent passport and quickly began planning an attack on New York City's World Trade Center. On February 26, 1993, he and accomplices parked a van packed with explosives under the North Tower, hoping the blast would topple one tower into the other and kill tens of thousands. The bomb detonated, killing 6 people and injuring thousands, but the towers remained standing. That same night he fled the country, using aliases and forged documents to travel through various countries while working on other plots, including a plan known as Bojinka, to bomb multiple airliners over the Pacific. The FBI placed him on its 10 most wanted fugitives list, and he became one of the most hunted militants of the 1990s. In 1995, after an associate's apartment fire in Manila exposed parts of the Bojinka plot, authorities were able to track him to a guest house in Islamabad, Pakistan. He was arrested there, extradited to the United States, and later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His case is often seen as a grim preview of later attacks, showing how early networks tested methods and targets that others would imitate. Velupillai Prabhakaran was born in 1954 in northern Sri Lanka, in a Tamil community that felt long marginalized by policies favoring the Sinhalese majority. During his youth, peaceful protests gave way to radical movements, and he came to believe that only armed struggle could secure a separate Tamil homeland. In the 1970s he founded the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE, which he led with strict discipline and secrecy. Under his command the LTTE grew into one of the most formidable insurgent groups of its time, running its own police, tax system, and even a small navy and air wing in areas it controlled. The group pioneered the use of suicide bombers, carried out high-profile assassinations, including those of former Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and Sri Lankan President Ranasinghe Premadasa, and staged attacks that killed soldiers and civilians alike. Many countries designated the LTTE a terrorist organization, and Prabhakaran became the central figure both supporters and enemies focused on. For decades he avoided capture, moving through jungle bases and bunkers, protected by highly loyal fighters. In 2009, after a brutal final offensive by the Sri Lankan military, he was killed near a lagoon called Nandika Dal, effectively ending the LTTE's war. His life remains controversial, seen by some Tamils as that of a resistance leader and by many others as that of a ruthless warlord who brought enormous suffering. Chung Chui-ping, better known as Sister Ping, was born in rural Fujian province in China, and later emigrated to the United States, settling in New York City's Chinatown. On the surface she ran a modest variety store, but behind that simple front, she built one of the most influential human smuggling networks of the late 20th century. From the 1980s onward she arranged for thousands of migrants from Fujian and nearby regions to travel illegally to the United States and other countries, often on overcrowded ships that spent months at sea. She charged high fees, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, and worked with violent gangs to collect debts, which meant some migrants were kidnapped, extorted, or forced into grueling labor if their families could not pay. Her network drew public attention in 1993 when the ship Golden Venture ran aground off Queens, New York. Sending desperate passengers leaping into the cold water, several drowned. U.S. authorities labeled her one of the world's most powerful snakeheads, a term for human smugglers, and placed her on wanted lists after indicting her on smuggling and related charges. She fled first to China and then was arrested in Hong Kong in 2000, where a long legal process ended in her extradition to the United States. There she was convicted of alien smuggling, money laundering, and hostage-taking, and sentenced to 35 years in prison, where she died in 2014. Her case is complex because while prosecutors saw extreme cruelty, some migrants still remembered her as the person who, at great risk, opened a path out of poverty. Lo Taik Jo, widely called Jo Lo, was born in 1981 in Penang, Malaysia, into a relatively affluent family, and later attended elite schools in the United Kingdom and the United States. In his 20s he cultivated an image as a well-connected dealmaker, mingling with Gulf royals, Malaysian officials, bankers, and Hollywood celebrities. Behind that glamorous lifestyle, U.S., Malaysian and other authorities say he played a central role in the 1MDB scandal, in which billions of dollars were allegedly siphoned from a Malaysian state investment fund. According to investigators and court filings, money believed to have been stolen from 1MDB was laundered through a web of offshore companies and bank accounts, then used to buy luxury real estate, artwork, a superyacht, and to finance entertainment projects. Loh has denied wrongdoing, arguing that the transactions were legal and that he is a political scapegoat, but he has been charged in absentia in Malaysia and the United States. As the scandal grew, he vanished from public life, and reports have placed him in various Asian and Middle Eastern countries, though no government has publicly confirmed sheltering him. Interpol notices and multiple arrest warrants have made him one of the most sought-after financial fugitives of recent years. His story is striking because it shows how alleged white-collar crime, hidden behind complex financial structures and celebrity culture, can reach the scale of a national crisis. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, born Ibrahim Awad al-Badri, around 1971 near Samarra in Iraq, studied Islamic law and spent years as a relatively obscure cleric. After the 2003 U.S.-led invasion of Iraq, he joined the growing insurgency, spending time in U.S. military detention before rising through militant ranks that would evolve into what became known as the Islamic State. In 2014, after fighters under his command captured Mosul and large areas of Iraq and Syria, he made a rare public appearance in a Mosul mosque to declare a new caliphate and name himself its leader. Under his direction, the group combined territorial control with extremely harsh rule, mass killings, enslavement, and a sophisticated online propaganda machine that drew recruits from across the world. Governments in many countries listed him as a top terrorist, and the United States offered a reward of up to $25 million for information leading to his capture, making him one of the most wanted men on the planet. As Islamic State territory shrank under heavy military pressure, Baghdadi disappeared from view, speaking only through occasional audio messages. In October 2019, U.S. forces tracked him to a compound in Syria's Idlib province. During the raid, he detonated a suicide vest in a tunnel, killing himself and several children. His sudden rise from little-known preacher to self-proclaimed caliph, and the speed at which his movement gained and lost a quasi-state, has become a key example of how quickly extremist groups can reshape a region. Isnalan Hapilon was born in the 1960s in the southern Philippines, a region with a long history of conflict between the central government and Muslim minority communities seeking autonomy. As a young man, he joined Moro insurgent groups before becoming a senior commander in the Abu Sayyaf group, which began with political aims but became infamous for kidnappings, beheadings, and ransom-driven violence. Over time, Hapilon developed a reputation as both a religious leader and a battlefield commander, able to move between remote islands and jungle strongholds. In the mid-2010s, he pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and the Islamic State, which in turn named him its emir in Southeast Asia. The United States placed a multi-million-dollar reward on his head under the Rewards for Justice program, and Philippine authorities described him as the country's most wanted militant. In 2017, he helped lead a coalition of fighters that seized parts of Marawi City on the island of Mindanao, turning a lakeside urban area into a war zone for months. The Philippine military responded with airstrikes and street-by-street fighting, in a battle that devastated large sections of the city. In October 2017, troops killed Hapilon in a targeted operation, confirming his identity through DNA testing. His life illustrates how a local insurgent commander can suddenly gain global attention once tied to an international extremist brand. Ridwan Isamuddin, better known by his nom de guerre Hambali, was born in 1964 in Cianjur, Indonesia, and became one of the most feared militants in Southeast Asia. As a young man, he joined Islamist movements and traveled to Afghanistan in the 1980s, where he trained and fought alongside other foreign volunteers, building contacts that would later prove important. Back in Southeast Asia, he became a key leader in Jemaah Islamiyah, or J, a clandestine network seeking to establish an Islamic State across parts of the region. Regional and Western intelligence agencies accuse Hambali of helping plan or support several attacks, most notably the 2002 Bali bombings that killed more than 200 people, many of them foreign tourists. After those attacks, his name quickly appeared on international wanted lists, with both the FBI and regional governments seeking his arrest. In 2003, he was captured in Thailand in a joint operation by Thai authorities and the CIA, ending a long manhunt. Since then, he has been held by the United States, first in secret detention, and later at Guantanamo Bay, without a regular public trial. His case is often cited in debates over counterterrorism and human rights, because it sits at the intersection of regional militancy and the global war on terror. Nordin Muhammad Top was born in 1968 in Johor, Malaysia, and trained as an accountant before drifting into underground networks that changed his life. In the 1990s he became associated with Jamaat Islamiyah, and moved in circles that connected him to other veterans of the Afghan conflict, and regional extremists. Over time, intelligence agencies came to see him as one of Southeast Asia's most dangerous militants, a man who combined ideological commitment with practical skills in bomb-making and planning. Indonesian authorities and others accused him of involvement in a series of bombings, including attacks in Bali, Jakarta's Marriott Hotel, and the Australian Embassy, many of which targeted Western interests. As he escaped multiple raids and arrests, media in the region began calling him Southeast Asia's most wanted man. He was known for slipping out of police dragnets at the last moment, often with the help of local supporters and safe houses scattered across Java. For years his image appeared on wanted posters, and each new attack triggered fresh searches. In 2009, Indonesian police finally tracked him to a house in central Java. During the raid he was killed in a shootout. His life shows how one determined individual, moving quietly across borders, can shape a pattern of violence over many years. Mas Selamat Kastari was born in 1961 in Singapore, and later became linked to Jamaah Islamiyah, the network seeking to create an Islamic state across parts of Southeast Asia. Authorities in Singapore accused him of plotting to hijack an airliner and crash it into Changi Airport, and later of planning other attacks, although those plans were disrupted before they were carried out. He was detained without trial under Singapore's Internal Security Act, reflecting how seriously the government viewed the threat. In 2008, however, he escaped from a high-security detention center in Singapore in circumstances that shocked the tightly controlled city-state. For more than a year he remained at large, and his face appeared on posters and in news reports across the region as Singapore's most wanted man. The escape led to intense public debate, and an official inquiry that detailed a chain of lapses in security. In 2009, Indonesian police arrested him on Batam Island, just south of Singapore, and he was later handed back to Singaporean authorities. His case stands out because it showed how even a state with a strong reputation for order and control could be embarrassed by the unexpected disappearance of a single detainee. Hafiz Saeed was born in 1950 in what is now Pakistan in a family that had migrated during the partition of British India. In the 1980s he co-founded Lashkar-e-Taiba, or LET, which began as an Islamist organization focused on the conflict in Indian-administered Kashmir. Over time LET grew into one of the most powerful militant groups in the region, running training camps and social welfare projects while repeatedly being accused of attacks inside India. India, the United States and several other countries blame Lata and Saeed for the 2008 Mumbai attacks, which killed more than 160 people in hotels, a train station, and a Jewish center. Saeed has denied involvement, and Pakistani authorities have not charged him specifically for Mumbai, but the United Nations and the United States have designated him a terrorist. Washington offered a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to his conviction or arrest in connection with terrorism, putting him among the world's most wanted suspects. Inside Pakistan he has been periodically detained or placed under house arrest. And in recent years, he was convicted on separate terror financing charges. Though his supporters frame him as a charitable and religious leader, his case is deeply entangled with the politics of Kashmir, the rivalry between India and Pakistan, and the wider debate over how states use or confront militant proxies. Baitullah Masood was born in the 1970s in South Waziristan, a tribal region along Pakistan's border with Afghanistan that had long been semi-governed and difficult to control. Coming from the Masood tribe, he rose through local militant circles after the US-led invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, as the frontier area became a staging ground for various armed groups. By 2007 he had become the founding leader of Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, an umbrella for Pakistani Taliban factions that launched attacks on Pakistani security forces, government targets and civilians. Pakistani and US officials linked him to numerous suicide bombings and other assaults, and some in Pakistan accused him of involvement in the 2007 assassination of former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, though he publicly denied it. The United States designated him a terrorist, and placed a multi-million-dollar bounty on his head, while Pakistani forces carried out operations aimed at weakening his strongholds. His influence was such that he could call truces or escalate violence across large parts of the Northwest with a single message. In 2009, he was reported killed in a U.S. drone strike in South Waziristan, with DNA and intercepted communications later cited as confirmation. His life and death highlight the tangled nature of militancy in the Afghan-Pakistani borderlands, where local tribal dynamics, global jihadist ideas, and great power politics all intersect. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with a topic you'd like us to cover next. Thanks again, and goodbye.